Hello, and welcome to Freethought Forum, where the gods aren't real and the prayers don't matter. I'm Sam Geltz.
And I'm Ian.
And today we are going to be talking about the afterlife, spirituality, ghosts. But first, let's get into our sponsors. Our show is sponsored by the Atheist Society of Knoxville, which is a meetup you can find at meetup.com, or you can find us from typing in Atheist Knoxville into your local search engine. We meet down at Barley's right after the show every Tuesday. There will be people down there right now. You can head down. After 6, we will join them after the show. The Atheist Society of Knoxville brings a community to an area that desperately needs it. The Rationalists of East Tennessee is a fun meetup group, is a fun group that meets at the Pellissippi campus the first and third Sunday. They have lively roundtable discussions on a variety of topics, and the second Sunday of each month is a book club. Today's book club, or this month's book club book, is Answers from Aristotle by Massimo Pigliocci, who will actually be giving a talk on May 11th. Check the website that we have behind us at rationalist.org for time and location to that event. Now, on to the news.
Well, let's talk about a little topic to give people a brief overview, and much of religious dogma was co-opted from past mysteries as explanations to the seemingly unassailable. While many of today's religions give credence to various superstitions, plenty have taken on an autonomous life of their own, and even though most denominations of separate Abrahamic religions specifically denounce and oppose communicating with the dead, this ghost culture supports many of the extraordinary claims religion makes without providing any evidence of their own. Normally this show focuses mainly on religion, however superstition can be far more dangerous in promoting anti-intellectualism. Critical thinking allows one to properly analyze reality, and pervasive belief supported only by tradition and wishful thinking muddies one's ability to sift through fact and fiction. Not being able to separate fantasy from reality and hallucinations from proper evidence create a, while colorful, incredibly dangerous and destructive worldview. I'm going to move on to the news now, since a lot's been happening this week. Notably, sociologist Fehmi Kaya, the head of the Health and Education Association for Autistic Children in Turkey, was reported in numerous media outlets in saying that autistic children were atheists due to a lack of faith section in their brains. He's not a neurologist nor psychologist, and I don't know how he's identifying this faith section. Yeah. I would like for him to map it out for me. Maybe it's next, like hiding behind the pituitary gland or something. But he says that that's why they don't know how to pray, how to believe in God, and he says it's necessary to create awareness in these children through methods of therapy. I know that many of the religious people like to create lots of therapeutic-friendly methods for people.
That sounds truly frightening, to be working with those kids and forcing religion down their throats.
I know you have something to say on that later about South Africans' own form of therapy.
I'm sure their form of therapy is not nearly as bad as the Echo Wild Games form of gay conversion therapy, where 2 men are now being prosecuted for the murder of 3 men that went to their camp for gay conversion. Sounds more like a concentration camp than anything else. These men were starved, beaten, and most frightening of all, they were forced to eat their own excrement until they eventually died of exhaustion and a combination of all of the tortures that they were put on them.
I mean, I hate
this is all trying to convert them from being gay.
I mean, I hate slippery slope arguments, but you see a lot of these same type of, gay conversion things here in America sponsored by different religious organizations. And when people are ostracized that much and told to behave and think in a way that isn't suited to themselves and their normal behavior, it can quite quickly become rather dangerous. But getting back to the autistic children, this sociologist, he's a sociologist, he's not a neurologist, he's not a psychologist, he's not a medical doctor of any kind, and it's not like Turkey has advanced highly in studies of the brain, but he was saying that autistic children were atheists from birth without being aware of it.
And aren't we all?
Yeah, it seems like he's kind of forgetting that default position of belief and how you analyze the world. It's quite frightening when you're so closed off that you think that everyone has your default view as soon as you come out of the womb.
Well, this is also correlation is not causation. That seems to be one of the big problems in this.
Yes, he says that, you know, most autistic children are likely to be atheists, and goes on to say that many atheists are in fact autistic. And these type of, you know, learning or developmental disorders combined with, you know, a critical view and skeptical view of the world is just quite disturbing if that's how you're going to frame your own worldview as, you know, your religion is perfectly right, we're all born with it. But he's been saying we cannot expect a child who cannot recognize a picture to recognize God. We need to help the autistic child recognize objects through therapy by targeting area senses of the brain. Faith does not normally exist in kids as all. Of course, many proponents like Carlos Diaz says, president of the Atheist Alliance International, children are born without any particular religion and most simply adopt the religion of their parents, the one they happen to teach them.
Of course, but some of this does make sense, as autistic children are not able to fully connect symbolism, which religion is wholly made out of.
Yeah, it's an emotional and symbolic thing.
So it does make sense why they are not able to grasp it. Of course, he's kind of flipping it around, saying that atheists as a whole, that not being able to grasp it is autism.
Yeah, have some type of developmental social disorder.
It's, I guess, an easier way for them to understand us.
And that's been said a lot in the past, actually. They've tried to, you know, hospitalize atheists in different countries, including America, to, you know, say that, you know, well, you have some problem with your brain. You're not like the rest of us. You don't have the same beliefs.
You don't have the delusion, so you're wrong.
A statistic recently that really surprised me, it was that 46.5%, this is according to Gallup, people in Massachusetts, almost half the population of Massachusetts is non-religious. I was really surprised by this. I'm not sure if it's completely right or the survey is accurate, because, I mean, it's happy to me. I would like to believe it, but still, it's quite out there. But this survey came out after, you know, of course, the Boston City Marathon bombings, an incredibly tragic event. And there was a, you know, government-sponsored vigil. The government attended, and different, you know, religious organizations, you know, tried to get in there and tried to, you know, get seats, and humanist and atheist organizations did the same thing. But they were denied and ignored. And all of these people contacted the government's office and tried to get in there without any success. So now there's a groundswell petition. If you don't know what groundswell is, just go to groundswell.com. It's an online petition site that will petition different governmental entities and show people's support. You can go to groundswell.com and find it, and there's a petition for, you know, the non-theistic inclusion in these type of vigils, and especially for the Boston City Marathon, since it affected so many different people. Also, on the 25th, a little bit of a protest occurred for and against. This was in Bangladesh. 4 men, bloggers on the internet, they were opposing the anti-Islamic party there. They themselves are anti-Islamic. There isn't an actual anti-Islamic party in Bangladesh that's, I don't know, like 100 years in the future. But they held their little public property sit-in. They weren't really doing much. They were just, it was a sit-in. And the response to it was much, much, you know, more monumental than what they were doing. A large march was organized against them to get them thrown in prison. A lot of the journalists are saying that, you know, they're not atheists, they're just, you know, political revolutionaries. Other journalists have said that, you know, they have claimed to be atheists in the past, and this brings up a very interesting thing because, you know, in Islam, the punishment for, you know, losing a religion, apostasy, is death. So it's much, much better to be a political revolutionary and, you know, not enjoying your political party than not enjoying your religion.
Non-violent protest of sitting there needs a march.
Yeah, it's... I don't know where they're going with this, but it's disturbing if they're going to have to rally harder against their political reasons, which are, you know, very important what they're doing, just to avoid the chance of seeming like they're atheists and getting, you know, a much harsher punishment. Rallies for their support are being organized by the Center for Inquiry. American Atheists and the International Humanist and Ethical Union. They will be held outside Bangladeshi institutions in New York, Washington, London, the Canadian cities of Ottawa, Calgary, and Vancouver. If you don't know, the National Center for Inquiry, they foster a secular society that requires attention to many specific goals, but 3 of the goals in particular represent the focus of their activities. Number 1 is an end to the influence that religion and pseudoscience have on public policy, an end to the privileged position that religion and pseudoscience continue to enjoy in many societies, and an end to the stigma attached to being a non-believer, whether the non-believer describes him or herself as an atheist, agnostic, humanist, freethinker, or skeptic. And we'll be talking about the Center for Skeptical Inquiry, an offshoot of the Center for Inquiry, later on, since our main topic is talking to the dead and all that hoodoo. I know you want to talk about the National Day of Prayer?
The National Day of Prayer is this Thursday. This is a government-sponsored event. I think they get around it by saying it's prayer. It's not specifically one denomination or religion. You can pray in whatever way you want, but I have a feeling that this was pushed by Christians.
I mean, it's not necessarily a feeling. So much often in this day and age, people like to muddy the waters, but there's a specific track record. You can find people's voting records. You can find people's entire lives displayed out in the public open. Yes, it's
there was not this idea was not pushed forward by Buddhists. It's clearly Christian, but it is very I think it's over the line, but at least borderline religious state separation issue. It
is very worrisome because we now have an actual religious holiday. You can argue that Christmas is a national one, but its history and the fact that, most atheists like it anyway, muddies the water just a bit. But we do now have a national holiday where people are supposed to pray to a deity.
Well, they don't specifically tell you to pray to a deity.
Well, what else are you praying to?
You can, Buddhists pray. They don't pray.
It's a little bit different. There's the connotation of what the word prayer means is pretty specific.
It is prayer. I will not be participating, obviously.
I'll have a nice little meditation ceremony.
It's secular. I'll pray to Christopher Hitchens' ghost.
But our topic today is pretty much talking to the dead. Ghosts, are you afraid of them? If you're an atheist, do you believe in ghosts? As a Christian, do you believe in ghosts? Have you had a type of spiritual spirit experience, a haunting per se? If you have, please give us a call, whether you're religious or non-religious. If you've experienced anything paranormal and you'd like to talk to us about it, you're more than welcome to call on in. The number's at the bottom of the screen. I found that a lot of people, even if they're not necessarily religious or can't identify with a particular religion, are far more likely to say that there's something else out there, and the spirit world most certainly exists, and they themselves even sometimes have experienced it.
Of course. Religion and superstition are not mutually exclusive and don't naturally hold hands, but you can be one and not the other.
But many of us
I find a little fascinating.
Many of us grew up with ghost stories, tales to scare us for fun or fuel our dreams. The only proof these tales offered was in the form of anecdotal evidence from frightened witnesses or past accounts of human barbarism, so terrible that they must have left a stain on the unknown, never seen, completely unproven, but ever-present ethereal world. An entire structure of an alternate paranormal world must be present in a believer's argument to lend any credence to the story, the only problem being that this world has never had a modicum of proper evidence. And without this structure, the stories are reduced to examples of the incredible power of the human fear and imagination. A person in emotional turmoil is subject to suggestion, not only from others in special hats, but from their own subconscious. Just like repeated UFO abductees, we rarely find anything but true believers making these extraordinary claims. A skeptic may say they saw a light in the sky or something dark around the corner, but making the jump to repeat abductions, alien experiments, and constant hauntings is another thing entirely. So if you're out there and you've experienced any of this and you'd like to talk to us about it,
we would like to hear some of your ghost stories. We will be talking about near-death experiences later in the show. If you have had one of those, we would like to talk to you about with that as well. Certainly have not had these experiences. I used to believe in ghosts when I was younger. I used to believe in God when I was younger too. So
did you have any ghost experiences?
I mean, a little bit of clowning in the dark, as we call it. You know, you get with a group of friends, and you're in a creepy location, and you just build up each other's fear, and you think you see something.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of mob mentality there, and you really kind of imitate other people's emotions, and saying that your emotional state cannot affect your senses is kind of arrogant. We're human beings with incredibly fallible senses, and each of us have, you know, different reliability with that. I myself, as a child, repeatedly saw monsters in the dark. I have a few different ghost stories I might share about, you know, the bed shaking while the rest of the house remains still, things at the bottom of the stairwell I couldn't explain. But as I grew older, the explanations to these things became far more reasonable than assuming there is this ethereal world constantly around me, over my shoulder, participating in my life.
I think a lot of people want to hold on to these ideas of another world out there. They don't want to believe that this is it. I hear that a lot from spiritual people or religious people, that this is it, this is all you believe, this that we have right here. They want there to be another world out there. It like we've said, it adds flavor. It adds.
I mean, it would be nice.
It would be nice.
I would like to be able to talk with my dead relatives, but I think the people who say and do that are scam artists, and I think it's deplorable. But
well, I don't think that those people actually believe that they are talking to ghosts.
I think a lot of the mediums, some do, some don't. I think some people have to believe it a little bit. Like, if you don't kind of believe it, you're not going to be... It's like method acting, you know? You tell the lie often enough, it's going to become a part of you.
Into it, but really, when it gets down to it, they're making money from it. They're playing a character. We were talking about that Kumari movie a few weeks ago. It's kind of similar to these people as well.
Yeah, after this, if you're not familiar, if you have Netflix, this is a wonderful film to watch. I completely endorse it, although it's quite hard to get through it. Even as an atheist, I could not bear watching this guy do this. He, you know, impersonated a guru, had no spiritual beliefs himself, but basically told everybody that he did, and was from India and had these powers and connections, and gathered disciples, gathered quite a large following. And it was really hard for himself to actually reveal to these people that he had completely made it up. And it was absolutely heartbreaking to watch. And that's why when you try to, like, have conversations with people about this, you know, parts of their life that might or may not be delusions, it's, you know, it's really difficult.
Yeah, people do fully throw all of their cards into this idea.
But
it affects every part of their life, because they don't believe that the life that we have is all that we have. They're looking forward more to what comes next than what they have now. And this is a problem with having a view of the afterlife in general. The reward of heaven.
Yeah, it's a very kind of juvenile consequence reward system, and my main problem with religion is actually heaven. If you promise someone that there's a perfect world out there, and that it's better than this one, and it's the world that you should actually be worrying about, it's the more important place, it's the place that you should be getting right with this deity, it's where you're going, it's eternity, and eternity is nothing compared to your existence here, then what does this existence matter?
Do you think that religions would be able to prosper if they didn't have this goal? No. If they didn't have this carrot on a stick to keep you going? That seems to be one of the main focuses, the goal, the afterlife, and then all of the ways to get there becomes their dogma.
Well, I'd like to ask that to people. If you're a Christian or any other faith out there,
this is the end, and this is how you get there.
If your religion, everything else was the same, absolutely the same, but there was no heaven. Maybe there's a hell, maybe there's not, but there's no heaven.
Could you live without a heaven? Or
would you switch to a different religion? How would that affect your views? We have a caller?
Oh, okay.
Will you answer it?
Hello, caller. Welcome to... There's no caller here. We seem to have a problem with the connection. I'm sorry we lost you, caller. You can try to call in again. And remember, the lines are open. We want to hear from you. Want to get your opinion on this and give us your ideas. Anyways, back to what I was saying. This reward system, I think, really decreases the value of life and what we have here. And that is one of the main reasons that I call myself an atheist.
I know we're going to get into some touchy subjects here, so before we continue, I would like to note that we are in no way trying to belittle any person's personal loss. Losing our loved ones is arguably one of the worst experiences a person can go through, and living with that empty void that an amazing and important person has left can be absolutely devastating. And for those who have never experienced debilitating depression before, dealing with grief can be absolutely life-altering. It is further complicated when we try to cope with how we feel versus how other people think we should be grieving. However, as an atheist, death is permanent to me. There are no second chances, no land beyond where we will be reunited with those we have lost. While I'm not personally miffed when someone expresses their beliefs about the lost being in a better place now that they have passed, it can be incredibly insulting to many non-believers. It can downplay the sense of loss and sound completely condescending even when they are simply trying to relate the best way they know how. Furthermore, when we lose someone who is also a non-believer, these supposedly comforting words can sound callous and ignorant. While they may wish that their related dead are in a supposed heaven, it conflicts with their own dogma. Espousing that my atheist friends or family are in a better place when your church clearly states they're in hell, it's a little insensitive.
All right. Hello, caller. Welcome to the show. Can we get a name or a nickname?
David, can you hear me?
Yes. What was your name?
David.
David. Hey, David. What's the question you have for us? What do you want to talk about?
I was just curious if you fellas knew. I call on this thing every Tuesday. I try to.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And I'm short and sweet. I was just wondering if y'all had heard of the website, the Hall of Shame.
Oh, yeah, we've talked about that with you before, yeah. I've not looked at it myself, but...
Well, I didn't realize I'd talk to you about it. I guess I've got all the way around then, ain't I?
Yeah, we're kind of a group here. We all watch the show.
Okay, what is this that you're wanting my opinion on there today real quick?
We are talking about the afterlife, ghost stories too, mediums, people who think that there is something after we die, heaven, ghost stories. Do you believe in ghosts?
No, I don't personally.
What do you think of heaven? How do you, like we were just talking about right before you called in, people deal with, atheists deal with grief much differently than religious people do, but we do not sink down into despair because of it.
Plenty do.
Plenty do.
I mean, it's hard not to when you lose people.
Too. I mean, there's, like you were just saying, they will tell you that, you know, your loved one is in a better place. But I mean, I honestly going to come up to you and be like, your loved one very well could be in hell.
Well, I mean, honestly, like whether you're religious or not, I think if you're religious, you may very well, whether it's right or not, whether you question it's a delusion, you might deal with grief better. It's hard to, you know, if you can't view them as perfect in another world watching over you, you have to go out into the world and create their own legacy. You have to honor their memory, and if you can't do that, it's hard to deal with it.
Yeah,
you know, fellas, there's a lot of women that are depressed, and when they, you know, have grief, it really affects them pretty bad.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of them have depression.
Well, as we said, heaven is one way, or an afterlife is one way that people deal with their grief. Everyone's going to have grief either way. I don't think that when a loved one dies that there's really anything.
I don't believe you grieve when you pass.
Oh, I mean, we're grieving for the ones that have passed.
Yeah, right. But I believe when I pass, I'll be relieved. Really, I mean, the grieving and all that will at least be over.
Yeah, I don't fear death. I fear dying. That doesn't seem fun. Unfortunately, I have to see that on an almost daily basis, and I really do fear that, but I don't fear death.
I don't fear it if it comes quick now. I do kind of shy away from that slow death.
Yes. I think I would fear living eternally and anywhere more than I would the oblivion that I believe.
Well, I mean,
especially after you get old.
I think I would get bored of heaven eventually. How exciting can it be after a while?
Well, we'll talk about different views of heaven, and if you're out there and you have a, you know, specific, maybe unique version of heaven, as I know a bunch of different denominations do, please call in. But plenty of the Christian denominations do purport kind of a materialistic, odd, boring heaven. Others say it's, it's just a spiritual connection and we all come back into the fold.
Well, you have heard these people, and they documented them on TV the other night, that they were out-of-body experiences, claimed to have died and came back, right?
Yeah, we're going to get to that in the show, too.
Okay, I'll be listening. I'll get off here and let somebody else call.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, David.
Call in next week.
See ya.
Let's get to that. Near-death experiences.
Yeah, why not?
People
Let's skip
have
ahead.
made plenty of money writing books off of their own near-death experiences. Of course, one of the funniest things that I find about near-death experiences is the experiments that have been done, the scientific experiments of trying to figure this out, where they have put a certain set of numbers or a specific word on a light in the room, so that when your spirit is leaving the body, because
they basically cover all the tables, cabinets, everything you can with symbols that's above the patient level on the table.
If I was being sucked up to heaven, I would make sure to pay attention to all of the symbols that were in the room while it was happening.
But, I mean, they have those experiments, but you can quickly say that, oh, I mean, in that state, how are you going to pay attention to all that stuff?
Well, obviously, no one was able to.
People are able to replicate near-death experiences quite easily. I think that the greatest evidence against it, though, is the fact that you don't have someone of Islam seeing Jesus. You don't see some follower of Christian seeing Muhammad. You don't see a Hindu having a near-death experience and then not believing in reincarnation anymore. Mm-hmm. It's always what you want to see or what you're afraid to see. And when, what's the guy's name? Carl Jensen did a study with this using ketamine and some other hallucinogens and stopping the heart, and the experiences were relatively the same. You can have an out-of-body experience, you can have tunnel vision, you can have a dreamlike state. These near-death experiences aren't all similar. So when people purport to say that, they've had these experiences and they're proof of God, just note that there are 100 other people having a similar but very, very different experience and coming to a very different conclusion.
No one has a near-death experience, gets up there, and God's like, you were wrong.
Yeah, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, back in, she's dead now, she died in 2004, but back in the early 1950s, she did experiments with this, and she didn't really claim she was a medium, but she called in other psychics and mediums for help, and she's well known for her work on death and dying, and later claimed that death doesn't exist. It's just one of several possible transitions through permeable boundaries. Unfortunately, she lost a lot of credence when she started giving a lot of these grieving widows STDs. Not personally, but she would call in mediums and have the mediums have sex with the grieving widows as possessed by their dead husbands.
Grief counseling. Your husband wants to tell you something.
Yeah. Just know that these type of situations are steeped in occult nonsense, and in modern times, it's like Raymond Moody. He's still alive. He was born in 1944. He is, a practicing doctor and psychologist, and he's the one who coined the phrase near-death experience. And he did actual scientific experiments with it. Unfortunately, we can analyze them, and there's published papers, and there's glaring omissions, and there's no control, and there's a large confirmation bias in all of it. But he's the one responsible for a lot of this, I guess, culture, and people who say that this is proof of the afterlife. Even if it is proof of the afterlife, personally, I don't agree with any of the experiments. I think there's glaring errors in every single one that he's done. But even if it is, the information that he gives certainly doesn't point to any religious worldview that has been purported in modern times.
Well, a lot of people say, and some of these mediums even say, that heaven is what you want it to look like. I've heard that plenty of times from people.
How convenient.
It's going to be your heaven. That's because, of course, if you explain to someone how the biblical view of heaven is, roads paved with gold, or maybe you're hanging out on clouds all day, you're like, that doesn't really sound too good or cool to me. So they try to go with this more personalized view. Always tell you that you're going to see your loved ones that have passed, and that just sounds like a Thanksgiving dinner. It's going to be like Thanksgiving dinner for eternity. That doesn't sound like heaven to a lot of people either.
I mean, as I've looked into different world religions and their view on heaven, it's kind of embarrassing. Most of the Christians I talk to, and they purport their ideas of heaven, it's very, very similar to the Islamic idea of heaven, and not at all what Christian theology says. So if you know any Muslim friends, talk to them, talk to the idea about heaven. If there's anyone listening in the audience, please call in, because every single description I've heard almost entirely fits an Islamic description that I've heard from a Christian instead of actually from their own book. So it's a little odd because the Islamic description is a whole lot more materialistic with a whole lot different rules, and it goes with what you want it to be.
Just making note, we have one way that people have tried to contact spirits is with a Ouija board, which I find to be quite fascinating. You gather around with friends, maybe light some candles,
clown in the dark,
because ghosts light candles, and ask the spirit something, and the board will move to what you ask the spirit.
Oh, do we have a caller? I think we do.
Maybe we can ask the spirits some help. But I think a Ouija board is fascinating because I think that... Oh, I'll get to that in a minute. We have a caller. Hello, caller. Welcome to Freethought Forum. Can we get a name or nickname?
You can just call me Caller.
You'll have to say that again. I couldn't hear you.
You can just call me Caller. That would work.
Okay. Hey, caller. How you doing?
Yeah. You were talking about the near-death experience, and
Certainly.
I was wanting to call up and say that I've experienced that myself.
That's wonderful. Would you like to tell us about it?
Yeah. What happened was it was 1970-something. I had joined the Army, and partway through the training, a bunch of us guys were really bored, and somebody came up with this technique of, and I don't really want to describe it in detail for fear that somebody might try it.
Okay.
So it's a little dangerous, maybe involves a pass out or something.
Exactly. Anyway, we're in the barracks, and we do this procedure, and on me, and I did pass out, and I did experience a tunnel with light and the whole bit. The main difference between my near-death experience and others is that there weren't angelic beings there to meet me and greet me and make me feel good and all that other sort of thing.
Any relatives?
No relatives and all that. I was flying through this tunnel, and there were these gargoyle-like things with green arms.
You could have been going in the opposite direction.
Well, I wish I could, but in my situation, all I could do was go faster and faster and hope that they couldn't claw me as I went by. They'd mistime it. That is the way the experience happened. So I'm rushing through this tunnel trying to keep these creatures, gargoyles, whatever you would call them, from striking me. And then I woke up. I'm back in the barracks. And so for several years I wondered about that.
Did you believe that it was something divine or merely a product of your own brain?
Well, when I later got more educated, I realized that the procedure that we went to actually stopped the blood flow to my brain.
Yeah, it's a cerebral anoxia. You deprive the blood to your brain, and when the neural noise comes back and you start, getting more blood back to your brain, it creates this tunnel effect.
Yeah.
The gargoyles hallucination completely created on your own, but the tunnel effect is widely reported.
No, it was not completely created on my own. See, I actually did a study of it. I was fascinated. When you think about it, what do soldiers back in 1970-something dress in?
Oh, so you think that you were hallucinating your fellow...
Well, no, during my hallucination, you see, when I passed out, these guys grabbed me.
Yeah.
And so here I'm seeing green arms because of green uniform.
You were in a frightened state. It makes sense.
Yeah, well, so anyway, what happened was, is also anyway, that was the only time that I experienced it. But the same thing happens. You have a decrease of oxygen to your brain, and as is it Ben?
Ian, this is Sam.
You're Ian?
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me, my mistake. I am so
No, I get called Phil, Ben, everything.
I am so embarrassed. Anyway, when you have a decrease of oxygen to your brain, as any jet pilot will tell you, you start having tunnel vision.
Yeah, they did experiments with this in like just a centrifuge. And every single person they put through the centrifuge pretty much experienced these near-death experiences once they deprive all of the oxygen to your brain.
Ian, you're like Wikipedia or something. you're right on top of it. But yeah, that happened. Anyway, this was included in a book that I was trying to write at that time, previously, years back, about death in America. Mm-hmm. And that subject came up. And oh, by the way, I did work under Dr. Maurice Rawlings, who wrote the book Life After Life. So that's why I became so interested in it.
I see. It is a fascinating topic.
Anyway, I'd like to say that the guy that called previously,
yes,
I'd like for that fellow to call in again. I like his down-home country attitude.
And he is a
repeat caller.
A repeat caller to the show. So
anyway, let me get off and...
Well, we thank you for calling in, and we really appreciate your knowledge here. And anytime you'd like to watch the show, or have you seen it before?
Oh, no. I'm not allowed to. The Amish group that I live in, they frown on such things. I'm risking my life just doing this right now.
Today. Maybe you found it on your iPhone that you keep under your pillow at night.
Do you live in Tennessee?
Yes.
Well, thank you for calling in. Thank you for your service, and we appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't thank me for the service. The Army sent me to the, what do you call it, the front of all the drug wars that America has been fighting.
That sounds like that can help with the near-death experiences as well. Well, thank you for calling in. We're going to move on to other callers and our topic. Thanks for calling. Okay. As I was saying, I'll get back to the Ouija board over here.
Do you still want to talk about more near-death experiences, or you want to move on to mediums?
I want to move on to mediums.
Yeah, let's do that.
But I wanted to say something about the Ouija board and how that, well, first off, somebody in the group is usually just straight up moving it.
Yeah, like right now.
Other than that, it gets a little more interesting, I think, that people's hands do just generally tend to move. No one's that steady, and especially when you have a group on it. So it will move around the board a little bit with everyone's hands on it, even if someone is not physically trying to move it to something. And even subconsciously, people in a group can spell stuff out, and as they get more scared and hopeful of what a ghost is going to say,
yeah, but these type of things aren't as popular as they used to be. The mediums and psychics of today don't use props.
We also want to note that this is made by, like...
Mattel, right?
Yeah, something like that. So, it's a board game. It's turned into a game where at one point you could have been hanged for trying to mess with these spirits.
In the past, these people would use, props, effects. Now it's just them getting on TV saying whatever they want.
Hello, caller. Can we get a name or a nickname? You're on the air, caller. Can we get a nickname from you?
John?
Hello, John.
Hey, John. What do you want to ask us?
What's going on?
what do you want to talk to us about today?
Goodbye, John.
Okay, John. I'm sorry we lost you. Maybe we had a bad connection. You can try again. Or someone else can try to call in. Let's move on to mediums.
Yeah.
I want to get to the mediums.
I know. I want to talk about ghosts, too, and the fact that, I mean, with cameras being one of the most abundant pieces of mobile technology, we should be finding mountains of evidence for supernatural claims and that were once constantly said to intersect with our daily lives.
People have taken a lot of pictures of dusts and lens flare.
Yeah, it's...
That's what a ghost looks like. It looks awful close to lens flare.
The paranormal is much like the religious, with constant new mechanisms being invented to purposefully ignore scientific revelations. With religion, we just need faith. Technology and progress has forced many apologists to contort their supernatural suggestions into a perverse and purposeful web of deception. An imperceivable God wants you to believe everything this very real man is telling you, but he can't give you proof. If he had proof, the game would be over, and God would be forced to send you to hell out of spite for cheating at his myopic and sadistic game of gullibility. Abandon your mind, abandon your ability to think critically, and that is the only true path to enable the Holy Spirit to enter you. The same can be said of ghosts and other paranormal activity. Hypnotists only hypnotize those with the ability or want to be hypnotized. Ghosts are only seen in the dark or in high-stress situations or after a period of emotional strife. Psychics say their powers don't work on skeptics and the only field patrons who actively choose to seek them out.
I'm sorry. It only works if you believe.
Yeah.
You're not believing hard enough.
Yeah, I don't know. As I said before, death is a very hard subject for me to deal with. It's a very, monumental thing in my life since I am an atheist. When people are gone, they're gone. And I don't have a problem if, you're religious and you say, they're in a better place or, bless you. It's okay. It's your best way to relate.
It seems like if people really, truly believed that they're going to see their loved ones when they die, that a funeral would be a very different thing.
Yeah, it'd be a party.
Yeah, it would be like a going away party. Oh, I'll see him again in a few years. He's having a great time over there.
Yeah, but mediums and psychics are a completely different thing. I have no respect for mediums or psychics. I think what they do is deplorable. I think you're exploiting people's grief. If you believe what you're doing is true and you have that delusion, I'm sorry.
Well, as we said, sometimes it seems like they have to trick themselves into believing it.
But the religious are dealing with their grief the best way they can. People who are making money off of it are a completely different story, and I find it absolutely deplorable. But however, like religion, visits with the paranormal have become increasingly ambiguous, even if still ever present. Hopefully the majority of people are no longer fooled by dramatic spirit summoning, possession readings.
I think plenty of people are. That's why these shows are popular.
Well, it's kind of like a new age film to it,
Over here.
Yeah, we'll get
to... We've all seen him on TV at one point. His show's no longer on air. Get a room full of people. You're like, does anyone have a deceased father figure?
Does the number 2 mean anything to you? Yeah. 2 family members, 2 pets. Maybe you got 2 hair ties.
The ghosts, the spirits, the loved ones are rather vague. They can tell you, my name starts with a G. But they won't. But then they come up with these complete sentences afterwards, like "There's a locket in the top drawer of your shelf. When you go home, make sure you check."
It's a process of cold reading. You basically give out a whole bunch of things, like Barnum statements, basically, things that'll apply to everybody, and you'll catch one. You never see a good cold psychic reading with one person unless that person's researched that other person. Several experiments have been done where the other person's reading, blind random people or people they've never met, and the success rate's pretty low without any visual cues. But you get a big room of people, and you will say that these people are psychic and talking to the dead, because hey,
they get to be on TV too.
Yeah,
so.
Everyone has someone in the audience has a father named John. I think the best test for these people, put them in a room, put an English guy who's never been overseas, put him in a room with only people from China. You see how quick he finds your name. I guarantee he won't get one single hit.
John here.
Yeah, he can talk to the dead, but only dead from his culture, and the other ones just don't appear.
The psychics will say that it's you don't understand how it's like talking to these ghosts.
I know, sometimes it's very clear, sometimes it's not.
Yeah, it's hard. But it's rather vague, and they'll shoot out 200 questions.
Yeah,
this is what it's all about.
A recording of John Edwards, an unedited recording that people went in there and did, had him spitting out almost 60 questions a minute.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they did that with Von Prague as well. There's two famous ones. Like Von Prague was early 90s, John Edwards was early 2000s. Luckily, the culture's kind of shifted away from, you know, these charlatans trying to take your money for talking to the dead.
These people had big TV
to
shows.
Paranormal investigators, thanks to the History Channel and the Sci-Fi Network. But I don't know. I think what they do is absolutely deplorable. I'm glad most of them are off TV now.
We have another caller. Hello, caller. You're on the air with Freethought Forum. Can we get a name or a nickname?
Matt.
Hello, Matt. Do you have a question for us or a comment?
Yeah, I was just wondering, what in the world is going on with your hair, the one with the glasses?
I was born like this.
I think it's actually spirits are holding it up. That is what's going on here. We have...
Normally I have straight hair. But the devil's infused it.
We have summoned them here with our Ouija board and our evil atheist ways, and they are pulling our hair up. Do you have anything else?
No, that's about it. It's just saying you might want to get a haircut because you look kind of like a douchebag.
Oh, well.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
You are too, Matt. Thank you for calling. We hope that there was an afterlife for you to go to, because you wouldn't see a nice one.
All right. Are we continuing with mediums?
Yeah. One famous medium that I want to talk about that everyone remembers is Mrs. Cleo. And as we're talking about Mrs. Cleo, I would like to remind everyone to call me now. The numbers will be at the bottom of your screen. 865-215-2288. Mrs. Cleo had a pretty good run from 1997 to 2003.
$1 billion.
She made over $1 billion in this time. $1 billion for hoodooing people that watch late night TV.
Yeah, she's a Jamaican shaman, isn't she?
She had to quietly retire after people had found out that she was really born in Los Angeles. So that accent, I think, was entirely
yeah, kind of a Kumari effect there.
I think she is a wonderful character, though. But she had been sued for $500,000 from people who had readings from her from tarot cards. Is the medium that she claimed
She's still broke even, though, you know. She did well.
She made over $1 billion, I think.
They took half of it away.
That's not going to take too big of a scratch to her. She's happily living out her lives on some Jamaican island, talking to spirits. I hope she's dropped the accent, though. Probably not. That's a nice accent.
Probably one of the people that I really don't like as far as mediums is the one pictured behind us. She has her own TV show, and that's Miss Alison Dubois, who has repeatedly, you know, said that she was involved in investigations that all the police deny that she was ever present for. The most that she did was call them a few times to give them information that they neither needed nor wanted nor help them solve any crime. Famously in 1996, it was a kidnapping that 4 years later, after it happened, she used her psychic powers to tell the police where the body was buried, yet it wasn't accurate enough, and they had to wait another 4 years so they actually found it. In a lot of her books, she, you know, says that this was her claim to fame, this is how she got started, yet, of course, the Texas Department of Safety denies her involvement entirely.
Story,
It does, it does. And I think, like, a lot of people want to be superstitious, and I'm sorry if I'm, like, you know, bogarting your fun here and telling you that ghosts aren't real.
Santa Claus doesn't really...
Yeah, I mean, like I like to pretend, I like to go out, but I mean, if you hate me for telling you that it's not real, and you get angry with it, then you kind of need to take a look at your own life and you're a little petty.
I was a little offended at you telling him the Santa Claus wasn't real.
I mean, yeah, I mean, you can believe in ghosts if you want, just know that you're wrong, and that you're delusional and sad.
See, the thing about these psychics, I've heard out Miss Dubois, is that when they tell people about what the afterlife is or what it looks like, it's never the Christian description or actually any description.
It's a description that can apply to every single person available.
Description.
And if you were real, you wouldn't be using the exact same techniques that charlatans have been using for centuries. Like, if you were a real psychic, you wouldn't look like every single debunked psychic in the past. Every person who has been found out to just be a charlatan making money, you'd be using different techniques. You wouldn't be following in their footsteps.
She will tell people that their pets will join them in heaven. This is clearly goes against Christian dogma.
Yeah, most Christian denominations say that animals do not have souls.
I can guarantee that most of the people that call her and want a reading from her do believe in some other type of religion.
And this is the danger here. Like, you might see me as a grumpy old guy, but I will preach far harder against superstition than I will religion, because at least with religion there's a background. You have a book. It's not just one guy just making stuff off the cuff to make you happy. Like, it's quite different. And if you choose to believe what you think is helpful and happy from some random stranger, then you probably have a very strange worldview. And if you can't separate fantasy from reality, then you're able to do some pretty destructive things.
Like we were saying, this worldview is pushed by the media, TV. This culture of supernaturalism that I'm sure we've heard, everyone has either heard or seen the show Ghost Hunters. We'll get to that in a minute. Right now we have another caller. Hello, caller. Can we give us a name or a nickname?
Hello?
Hey, can we get a name?
Hey. My name's Jake.
Hey, Jake, do you have a question for us?
Yeah. Yeah, Jake.
Oh, yeah, could you...
Yeah, I was wondering about the ghosts.
What do you want to know about them?
Okay, you guys are saying there's no ghosts?
Yeah, do you believe in ghosts?
Yeah, I believe in ghosts. You ain't heard of Casper?
He's a friendly ghost.
Yeah, the Casper the friendly ghost.
I have to say, I have been waiting to get troll callers for a long time, and we really appreciate it, but we're going to have to move on. Yes, the History Channel actually sells a kit for ghost detecting. It comes with an EMF meter to detect electromagnetic frequencies, a portable motion sensor, a digital infrared little thermometer, and a nice little carrying case to carry that, and the EVP listener it includes. And EVP is electronic voice phenomena, if you don't know.
Also known as static.
Yeah. If you see people who use electronic voice phenomena, then they never use a nice recording device. Ever. It's always the worst thing you can possibly get. It's always the thing that'll pick up the most static, the most vibration. It's like a 1980s tape recorder. You never see someone with a nice digital $1,000 recorder picking up EVP.
And maybe sometimes the ghost is talking too slowly or too fast.
Yeah, and you gotta speed it up and change it, and then you get the answer you want.
You know what really helps me talk to Satan? Putting it in reverse. That's always a good one. Back in the days, you remember, with the record player, it's the only way he could communicate with you.
We'd like to remind people that if you are interested in the paranormal, there are reputable people who do try and investigate this, like the CSI. TAPS, the Atlantic Paranormal Society, that you see on TV, are not. Like, they've been exposed hoaxers. Like, they might have started out okay, but once you start getting a check from a TV station, you might change your tune a little bit, and you don't have that much information to fill, you know, your 100-episode slot.
We've got a short period of time in the show, but I want to talk about some of the real-life explanations for ghost stories. Oh, we'll take this caller, though. Hello, caller. Can we get a name or a nickname and a serious question? You're on the air.
Hello.
Hello, caller. How are you doing?
How are we doing today?
What's your name? Can we get a name or nickname?
My name is Ron, but they call me Tunchi.
All right, Tunchi. Do you have a question or a comment for us?
Well, tell me a little bit about what's going on here first.
Well, at the moment we're talking about ghost stories, and do you believe in ghosts?
I totally believe in ghosts.
Why is that? Do you have evidence for it? Have you had an experience yourself?
I've come to a couple a couple of ghost encounters.
Would you like to tell us about your best one?
My best one?
Yes, your best ghost encounter.
My best? All right. So one time, when I was a little younger, my dad's house it's really old. It's over 100 years old, this house, and people have died in there. And I always heard banging and scratching and weird sounds at night, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one time I was just down in my basement working out, right?
Yeah.
And I was just doing, lightweight, right? And I was busting it out. I was just like, I can't stand you, LeBron. I can't stand you, LeBron. I can't stand you, LeBron. It was easy.
Uh-huh. Well,
And then all of a sudden, I felt this pushing down on the weight. And it was lightweight, like something I could have done with, because when I'm by myself, I don't do a whole lot of weight. It's something that I could have done very easily, and it was pushing down at my throat.
well, I wish we had a little more time on the show. We were kind of running out, so I'll have to be kind of quick. But first off, you said the house was old, and you said that people had been, or you had heard stories of people being murdered there before. So you had, you already had an idea that something had happened. You had an idea that there could be something there. I wanted to talk about this infrasound.
Infrasound, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
This is one of the most fascinating things to me. There's actually a sound wave that is low frequency that can mess up a person's equilibrium and cause fear in them.
Yeah, Vic Tandy at
they're
18.9 hertz.
Yeah, it's 18.9.
Your eyeballs will vibrate.
Yeah, causing you to see things. It also can make you feel nauseous. People have reported having nosebleeds from this, passing out. This vibration can happen naturally in old homes and basements, long hallways, places where people normally say they see ghosts. The sound is probably an evolutionary response because earthquakes can give off this vibration. Actually, a tiger's roaring is low enough that it gives off.
I mean, yeah, you wonder why dogs freak out so much quicker to sounds than we do.
And they always say that too. Like the dog saw something, the dog felt something. They have a much wider range of hearing, and they can be messed with just as easily as we can. One of the things that I found fascinating about infrasound is they had used it in Vietnam to try to induce fear in the Vietnamese soldiers.
And what effect did that have?
But this actually had the opposite effect because the soldiers were fearful, therefore they kind of fought a little better and a little more trigger happy. So I think it's probably a pretty good home deterrent system. Like if I lived in an old mansion, I would think I would be pumping infrasound in there, get some ghost stories around. But for psychological warfare, not so much. I think that is one of the best explanations for ghost stories.
Well, I mean, the best explanation for ghost stories is simply Occam's razor. I mean, you have to supplant an entire... You have to come with a lot of arrogance and come and supplant this huge ethereal structure that as people...
Arrogance.
What's that?
I have so much arrogance. That's why they can't get to me.
The ghosts?
Yeah,
Are you...
I'm not scared of anything. Like, they can't get to me.
So you have repeated encounters with ghosts?
They can't say it in the real world.
Have you considered getting an ectopack and turning it into a profession?
Have I considered it? Well, like, it's this old saying when I think of ghosts. Like, see, I'm an OG. You know what an OG is?
Yeah.
I'm an original gangster. They're just the remix. You know?
They better not mess with you. Thank you for your call. We are unfortunately at the end of our show, so we're going to have to start wrapping up. We hope to talk to you next week, and good luck with your ghost encounters. I hope you don't run into any poltergeists, because...
I know, it can go the other way.
You say you're the original gangster. They're dead. They've been around a little longer than you. They might be a little more...
I mean, there's plenty of demonologists who actually do this for a living.
Yeah, they make a good chunk of money from it. I actually kind of... yeah, it is a skill to manipulate people like this. It doesn't come easy. They have to work with it, these cold readings.
I mean, most of these are non-falsifiable hypotheses based off your own fallible senses. So, that's not to say it's not true. That's not to say there's not something else out there.
Remember to stay rational out there. Use Occam's razor. and we will see you next week.